What are you at? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn, and it's Monuments Monday, and this is the Sale in Ashton-upon-Mersey War Memorial. But honestly, it could be anywhere. You'll find these stoic stone sentinels in just about every village and town across the UK. They're everywhere because the First World War was everywhere, and it carved itself so deeply into the national psyche that the country responded the only way it knows how, by building something solemn and vaguely classical, and then every couple of decades, carving a few more names into it. It marks the losses, the sacrifice, the sorrow, but not, curiously, the relief, which brings us to today's memorial, VE Day.
Before I moved to Britain, I had what I can only describe as a tepid, arm's length sort of relationship with VE Day. In Canada, it was the kind of holiday that existed mostly in textbooks and in tiny letters on the calendar, like Flag Day or the Queen's birthday in June, which to this day remains one of Canada's great calendar-based mysteries. It was actually April, wasn't it? VE Day was a bit like that one distant cousin who's always invited to family get-togethers, but never actually shows up. You know he exists. You might even remember his name, but he's never really on your mind. VE Day never did take up much room in my brain when I was growing up. It lived somewhere alongside things like Magna Carta and Riel. Remembrance Day, on the other hand, was a big deal. November 11th was etched into our collective memory like a national scar. It was reverent, emotional, and observed with a kind of hushed seriousness that made even the rowdiest schoolchildren suddenly contemplative, or at the very least, quiet. You could count on it being cold, not dramatically wind whipping through your soul cold, but a chill that makes your breath visible and your ears hurt if you stand still for too long. Which of course we did. Solemn trumpet solos and poems about poppies, read by children who somehow always had colds. It's a statutory holiday in Canada, what the Brits would call a bank holiday, and everything comes to a respectful halt on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Schools close and shops shut down for the day. There's a tone to the day, not quite mournful, but certainly not cheerful either. It's reverence with a distinctly Canadian flavor, quiet, modest, and tinged with a touch of frostbite. VE Day, by contrast, was more of a historical footnote, something that happened far away to other people in countries where tea isn't just a beverage, but a national ethos. It was real, of course, just not real, like the Bayeux Tapestry or the Tower of London. But then I moved to Britain, and VE Day turned up like a brass band on a quiet street, loud and suddenly everywhere. Here, VE Day is not just remembered, it's lived. It erupts out of nowhere every 8th of May, like bunting-based confetti from some cosmic cannon. One moment your street looks like a normal bit of suburban England, hedges trimmed, cars politely parked halfway onto the pavement. That's the sidewalk for the uninitiated. And the next, it's 1945 again, except with more folding tables and fewer ration books. Union Jacks flap giddily from every available surface. Windows, gates, flagpoles, occasionally dogs, and music from the wartime era wafts out from someone's Bluetooth speaker with a nostalgic crackle that I'm fairly certain is deliberately added. Neighbors who barely nodded at each other since the last bin day suddenly appear in full 1940s garb, handing out scones or scones. I could never figure out which it is. And cucumber sandwiches like they're auditioning for the Great British Blitz-Off.
We'll change your pound, John.
Yeah, of course I have. Just a minute. Yeah. Oh, go away.
I remember my first one vividly. I was standing awkwardly on a street in Torquay, holding a paper plate piled with things in various shades of beige. Cocktail sausages, egg salad sandwiches, and a curiously enthusiastic amount of pork pie, and feeling mildly disoriented. Was this history? Was I commemorating? Or just eating my body weight in coronation chicken? It felt oddly jolly for something born of such profound suffering. But then, that's the thing about the British. They do cheerful stoicism like it's a competitive sport. They can grieve with dignity and party with purpose, often in the same afternoon. The more I thought about it, and the more sausage rolls I consumed in pursuit of cultural literacy, the more I realized something. Remembrance Day and VE Day are not opposites. They are, in fact, complementary, like yin and yang or tea and digestive biscuits. One marks the sorrow, the sacrifice, the silence. The other is the great exhale, the knees up, the unspoken national relief of not being bombed anymore. And really, what better way to say, thank God that's over, than by dancing awkwardly to Glenn Miller with your neighbors, while wearing a paper crown made from old copies of the Times. To my surprise, I found it all quite moving. I'd grown up believing remembrance had to be solemn, to be sincere, that paying tribute meant frowns and stiff collars and slow, deliberate trumpet notes played in a minor key. But here I've discovered that commemoration can be joyful, messy, loud, and it can involve jelly. VE Day isn't about forgetting the horrors of war. It's about honoring what came after, the survival, the resilience, the simple, wonderful fact that people manage to keep going, keep rebuilding, and keep throwing tea parties in spite of everything. It's a celebration not of victory in the gloating sense, but of relief, of peace, of life, really. Living here has changed the way I think about memory. It's not something static, locked behind velvet ropes in a museum. It's alive. It smells like baking and sun-warmed plastic chairs and a slightly burned sausage on a paper napkin. It's people gathering together, not just to remember the dead, but to celebrate the fact that they're still here. And honestly, if you can do that while balancing a Victoria sponge and a small dog in a Union Jack waistcoat, all the better.